Hello my friends, Simon Miller here, and I have just seen The Batman and it made me feel all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum because I thought it rocked. So please do check out my spoiler-free review should you want to know more of my opinions. But obviously, we are going to talk about spoilers here, specifically the ending. So don't get mad if you hang around, I just told you. And while there's nothing that will make you go, oh my gosh, I don't believe it, one of the best things about the movie is the character arc for the Dark Knight, moving from a guy who believes vengeance is the best way to clean up Gotham to realizing if he is going to sort out the city, he needs to get the message of hope out there. So it's all a little bit Shawshank Redemption, but it takes inspiration from many other Batman narratives, and it ties it in here. The reason this carries an extra bang is because the place he's meant to be protecting actually ends the movie in a far worse position than it was at the start. I mean, the Riddler blows up a bunch of dams that are controlling the seafront, meaning Gotham gets completely flooded, whereas the Penguin now has the opportunity to seize power after the death of Carmine Falcone. And the fact that there are now areas where the GCPD can't get to mean they're ripe for criminals, so that's gonna take over like the flippin' NWO. This is mostly done to remind you that a sequel is on the way, and when we get to the Batman 2 that we're probably gonna get a different kind of Caped Crusader. I mean, he has learned throughout this whole experience that if people are terrified of him, that ain't going to work, because the general population basically sees him as the same way they do the scum on the streets. It's all fear. The only way he can achieve this, however, is to give himself to Gotham entirely, and we do see this a lot with Batman, because that's the whole point, but there is another reason the ending hits harder than it may seem at first. I mean, Selina Kyle has decided to leave because she can see how much of a mess it is, and even mentions that she may head to Bloodhaven, and implores Batman to come with her. I mean, she tries to do this by telling Bats that they can scam some hedge fund types, and let's face it, he ain't gonna do that. So they share their goodbyes. The Dark Knight tells her to take care of herself before they zoom away on their motorcycles before they come to a fork in the road. And while the significance is kind of cheesy in the sense that Catwoman flies to the left, whereas Batman goes to the right, it's what we drive home all the time. Batman's biggest sacrifice is that his nuts dedication to Gotham means he's going to be alone, and probably sad forever. It is this isolation that makes the character work as much as he does. I mean, the death of his parents is something he's never gonna get over, even though between you and me, I bet if they were alive, they'd slap him around and tell him to calm it and have some pizza. I mean, this is his blessing and it's his curse, and why he comes across as such an inspiring figure. Make your choice, stand up for what you believe in, and try not to get intimate with small-time criminals, even if they have a good side. Naturally, it also leaves things open so that Catwoman could return in a sequel, which also ties into the ending for our villains, and man, people gonna talk about this forever. And I don't think we need to muck around either, because after the Riddler has been locked up in Arkham Asylum and loses his mind, even more so than he already has done, the man in the next cell strikes up a conversation. He clearly feels his pain, as he too has been thwarted, and while you never see his face properly, you can see the scars, you can hear the voice, you can hear the laughter. He calls himself a clown. I mean, look, it's the Joker, it's the flubbing Joker. Now, for my money, as was long rumored, this was Barry Keoghan, especially as he gets credited as unseen Arkham inmate or whatever the hell it was. But it is made quite clear that both of these guys are going to feature in the ongoing story. And that is the same with the Penguin, who is sold as the head mob guy in Gotham now, leaving the door open for potentially three villains in whatever comes next. You thought Batman Returns went nuts with its antagonists. Let's also not forget we last see Alfred almost dead in a hospital, which is yet more evidence that Bruce Wayne isn't having the best time. And we have a new mayor who seemingly is happy to work with the Batman in Bella Real. Now, that is going to be bolstered by the fact that Jim Gordon will clearly be commissioner in whatever comes next. So we have the relationship between the major players and Batman all sewed up, which is not the case when it comes to this movie. I mean, the police hate this wing freak for the majority of the time, and the only reason he doesn't go to jail is because of Gordon. So while there is about 78 different endings you can talk about when it comes to the movie, they all do their job. Like, in no world was there ever gonna not be a sequel, because this is DC's hottest property. And also, if Aquaman is gonna get more than one, there ain't no way Batman ain't on that list too. But I do wanna say that DC is crazy for not having a post-credit scene. I suppose the reel that goes everywhere could be different to what I saw, but that would be weird. And if you do wait, and trust me, I did, you just get some text from the Riddler suggesting there's more to come. There's also surely a huge story to investigate in the sense that during this, Bruce learns that his mother Martha struggled so badly from mental issues that she spent some time in Arkham. Now, both Patterson himself has talked about this, and just go read any Batman comic. Surely this is an avenue that when going forward we should explore. It's not really something Batman has ever done on the big screen. And given that we do live in a 2022 world where this kind of conversation is more open than ever, I think it would shine a completely different spotlight onto the character. Especially because the argument against Batman is always, well, he's just a rich guy running around in a suit. And while that is true, he certainly has a different side. And well, it all ties into this. I mean, his grit and determination is fueled forward because of the trauma in his life. And when you do start getting into that, you can talk about PTSD, you can talk about OCD, and you can talk about abandonment issues. This would also allow the Bruce Wayne side of things to get portrayed in a completely different way. And if we are trying to get a potential trilogy out of this, well, I think that's something that we should be uncovering. If nothing else, the more we talk about this, the easier it does become, and it just makes Batman so much more interesting. Because again, we said it once, let's say it twice. Here's a guy that decides to spend his nights running around dressed as a bat. One final thing to mention is that you should expect more from Bruce Wayne when we do get to round 2. I mean, he is oddly not present in the Batman, but that's mostly as Bruce ignores all his duties because he's focused on his other job, which is a reason his father's renewal fund is corrupted in the way that it is. No one was there to stop all of that, and Wayne was the guy to do so, and now that he's learned this, you have to imagine there'll be an evolution for the character down the line. I mean, for Batman to work and for Gotham to be saved, his real face and his mask are equally important. It does mean there's more to this ending than first meets the eye, but I doubt this is what anyone's going to be talking about, because you'll be too busy chatting about how Thomas Wayne turned to Falcone to help him with his problems. I mean, that is a whole movie on its own. What were you flubbing thinking, Tom? This is a terrible, terrible idea. We also need to sort out the water problem that's now happening to Gotham, and also, in the Batman, Salvatore Maroni's name is mentioned around 78,462 times. So if he doesn't turn up whenever we do get to the next film, I don't know what the hell has happened. But again, make sure you listen out for this and then make your own feelings known in the comments. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and make sure you head over to whatculture.com where you can read all of our Batman coverage. Already mentioned that we have a Batman review on the channel right now. It's spoiler-free from me, so go check it out if you so wish. And if you have some thoughts on the Batman that you'd like to share with any of this, find us on social media and open your mouth. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you for joining me as always, and genuinely, when you do get to see the movie, I would like to know your opinions on the ending, because it kind of ends in a very open fashion, but when you take a few bits back and you start chopping it up with a knife, there is a bunch of information to dive into, especially this stuff with the Joker, because I tell you, he's only in it for around about 2 minutes, but it is going to cause a meltdown on the internet as we compare him to Jack Nicholson and we compare him to Heath Ledger. Thankfully, he will definitely be better than Jared Leto. That is a different video for a different time. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.